So thank you very much for everyone for joining me today. Today we're going to be discussing with you about a topic I absolutely love is how we can develop business models for the base of the pyramid. And I'll be leading today's session. I'll be joined by three panelists as well that I'll get to in a sec. If we could go to the next slide, please. So today I want to get started about some of the findings we have from our Base of the Pyramid Innovator Guidebook that really focus on navigating business models for the base of the pyramid in the water, energy for food nexus. This was something that I think was really great work we did and is also more relevant post-COVID. And developing this guidebook was all about listening to different entrepreneurs within emerging markets. And that's why part two, I want you to hear directly firsthand from innovators that have overcome unique challenges facing them throughout the different countries in Bangladesh, Kenya, and Indonesia. So we have Peter from Hydroponics Africa, we have Anissa from Akista, and we have Taj from Lal Teer Seed. And they'll be joining us a little bit later. And then part three, and I hope to have a lot of time devoted to this, is I want to give you guys, I'm going to ask a few questions to our amazing innovators, and then we're going to jump into some discussion. So as you can see, there is a live event Q&A, so at any time you can put questions there, and then we'll look at those and ask them at that time as well. So let me give you a little more overview of the Innovator Guidebook on the next slide. It's based on research with interviews and a lot of secondary research. In fact, here's me at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in The Hague interviewing an innovator. And again, this book was really about trying to cultivate and captivate all those innovator exchanges. Generally, when you're working in emerging markets, that happens at conferences, informally through networks. But this guidebook was an attempt to actually kind of formalize some of that learning. And when you get a chance, check out the guidebook, and I'll highlight some of the findings today for you. But it really curates and frames different tools, tactics, examples, and resources from entrepreneurs working throughout emerging markets in the water and energy for food nexus. Next slide. So, again, if you're wondering what the base of the pyramid is, how we defined it, I think this is where it's very exciting. So in general, it's about local purchasing power, about $3,000. And so it might differ, right? In somewhere like the United States might be $3.35 a day, while in somewhere like Bangladesh might be $1.90. So it changes. But overall, it is a huge, huge market. It's, in fact, some people estimate it to be a $5 trillion consumer market. Now, that's really exciting when you're thinking about trying to grow a business. However, as you can see, the base of the pyramid is very large. It covers a lot of different countries. And so because of that, there's a lot of different variables, different cultural norms, different, obviously, geography. There's a lot of other variables that consider. So you can't approach this market with a homogeneous type mindset. Next slide. And I love being in this industry. I absolutely do. It's fantastic because I really think we need more entrepreneurship within the ag sector. And the reason why is, FAO says we need to double the world's food supply. And we need to do this despite that we have climate change. We have a lot of natural resource constraints. I think in the past, we could just plow more land and grow and expand. We don't have that ability right now. In fact, we need to produce more with less. And we also need to get smarter. We need to have less post-harvest loss. We need to get smarter about the food that comes off the dinner table as well. So we need more entrepreneurship for people thinking through these unique solutions that can really help us address some of the agricultural challenges that we'll be facing and food security challenges that we'll be facing in the coming years. And not to mention with COVID, even more so, we need this as if COVID exposed some vulnerabilities up and down our food value chains. So here's the thing. When I met with entrepreneurs, they're all doing very unique solutions, and they're really customized to the local context. However, some common challenges did emerge when you talk to entrepreneurs from different countries. One was when you're trying to work at the base of the pyramid, people say, look, I don't know if my customers have the ability to pay. And that has led to some donor dependency issues where we just give them things. However, when you dig deeper, what you find out is that, yes, farmers, for example, have a very small profit margin. they think very carefully before they make their investments. And you have to think through innovative financing approaches and other ways of doing this. And so, that is a challenge and something that needs to be addressed and incorporated into business models. Second, a lot of businesses have a hard time really getting to know their customers. I mean, if you think about it this way, they're in a rural area and it's hard to connect with them to really understand their needs. I had a friend who was in Kathmandu, and he, as a Nepali, and he said, look, when I try to go sell my products in rural Nepal, I'm a complete outsider, and I really need to rely on people to help me understand and get familiar with these customers, for example. Third, scaling challenges. As I mentioned before, the BOP market is very diverse. And so just going from one market to the next isn't about growing bigger. You have to think, you have to really customize the local context. And that's the theme I'm really going to draw down in today, is how to further customize the local context. Last is distribution. I've seen so many technologies and businesses fail because they don't think about how expensive it is going to be to actually get their product to the actual customers. And in some of these markets, you might not have proper infrastructure. You might not have a clean system to actually get it to the farmer who actually needs it. And then manufacturing falls in this as well too. It's, can you find a manufacturing facility that can actually keep your costs at a reasonable point and produce at a quality that will be standard across the board and produce at volume. Next slide. And I think bureaucracy and governance issues are well documented. I think even the most well-intentioned governments that want to help entrepreneurs, it can be so difficult if you're running a business trying to navigate all the different rules and regulations to try to get your enterprise to a place of sustainable growth. Second, there's this risk aversion thing where, again, people say, oh, farmers do not like to try new technology. They're set in their ways. I mean, I'd be set in my ways too if I was someone come and try to sell me a product and said, hey, look, try to grow something. Please put your livelihood on the line for me. So I think they're smart, sophisticated customers, and they think very carefully. They're also not necessarily rational. Just because you have scientific proof that will increase their yields, that doesn't mean they'll necessarily do it. Just like any customer, we make choices for a lot of different reasons, such as you might like the color of the product better than another one, or you might not trust the person trying to sell it to you. So there's a lot of reasons that go into that need to be unpacked when you're thinking through marketing to the base of the pyramid customer segments. And this last one is, man, I think we all know this with COVID. When you're working in emerging markets, anything can happen. And I think particularly in emerging markets, you might be more prone to, we have climate change happening more, you have political instability at times, you have some violence. And I think those things need to be incorporated in business models that, you need to look at ways to make your business model as resilient as possible to withstand shocks and be adaptive. Next slide. This is a little bit dated now. I'll be curious to see, what happens after COVID. We have more data. However, that first point I really want to draw in is that most startups fail because there's no market need. And I think this is people become enamored with their solution and they forget, do customers are actually willing to pay for this? And I think this is about not getting the horse in front of the cart. You have to make sure that the solution is going to address customer needs and they're willing to pay for that. Second is they run out of cash. They just, they can't keep running. They're not able to they're not able to keep going. Talent's also a big issue. Finding the right people that can help you along with your growth. Next slide. So in the guidebook, it's supposed to be very practical and supposed to say, look, if you have this problem, you might want to look at this. And I'm really hoping that this is just the beginning of a conversation because, again, there isn't that much formal literature on how to help entrepreneurs in emerging markets as we do in mature markets, for example. And, to give you an idea of the types of things that we try to cover in this guidebook is that, one, if you find your customers cannot afford upfront cost, a lot of these entrepreneurs through SWFF and Water Energy for Food and some that you'll meet today have done some really interesting, innovative financing for end user financing with rent to own, pay as you go, leasing models, and even government subsidies. Second, sometimes it might be too expensive to actually acquire individual customers. I mean, you can imagine if you're trying to cover a lot of farmers in a lot of different areas, it can be hard to just go after one at a time. So can you sell to an aggregated unit like a cooperative or a self-help group or some other type of group in which you can target? And also what our research has showed is that the heads of these cooperatives, these village chiefs, these people running these self-help groups, they tend to be your early adopters, in case you're familiar with Moore's Law, where your early adopters are the people you really want to target because then they influence others. And so thinking through where you can find those people that can then have a cascading effect to pull in others. Third, with the different crop cycles and harvest season, revenue can be very variable and unpredictable when working in the ag sector. And so I've seen some entrepreneurs overcome this through subscription-based models, like through a monthly fee, for example. That way they can better predict their cash flows and can make smarter decisions about their growth and their investments. Last, some customers say, look, we get the value of your product, but we're still a little bit hesitant to try something new. Again, maybe because their livelihood's on the line. You might want to look at where you can bundle this a little bit. You know, perhaps there's an insurance package. MicroInsure, for example, does a really amazing insurance for people from low-income households at a pretty reasonable cost. So looking at creative things. Next slide. And I've seen some products where they just can't compete on price alone. And they might want to bundle that with something else. And so you might even be an add-on to an existing service. I think many of you on this call would agree that middlemen can be a huge challenge for both buyers and producers. And if you can find the right crop and the right price points, contract farming can be a great model to find a way of kind of overcoming the middlemen challenges. And last, if your product is just doing amazing for mature markets or more outside of the BOP markets and also for low-income type market segments, you might look at crop subsidization, where your higher end customers might pay a higher price point, and the profits from that can then keep your price points a little bit lower for people you're trying to target for the base of the pyramid. Next slide. So again, I encourage you all to take a look at the guidebook. And as you can see, we kind of matrixed it. And, ability to pay, there's a lot of different business model features you could add. Same thing with, cutting out the middlemen. And what I want to make a point here about is that there's no magic formula. You know your business better than others. And I think what it is you can experiment and try different features that might work for you to unpack value from your customers and support your growth. And I think this is all really comes down to is what are your customers' needs and what are local solutions that you can overcome them. And I do think that if you find out, like, I want to try a rent-to-own model or I want to try an innovative financing model, there's so many interesting entrepreneurs cited throughout the guidebook. We have a few with us today. I strongly encourage you to reach out to them. Every entrepreneur I've met within this space are just so forthcoming about trying to share what they've learned and their experiences. And I think building that community and building those connections between them is something that is really needed if we're really going to address the food security challenges that are facing the world. Next slide. So in the guidebook, we have a lot of different tools and tactics. We didn't try to reinvent the wheel. There's so many great resources out there that can be directly applied to helping you think through your business model at different phases. We based it off of the lean startup, if you're familiar with that. And so we decided to call it design, test, and accelerate. So under this design category, this is really about how can you think, what are the tools and tactics you need to address customer needs? How can you actually come up with, do you need to find people locally in a village to get market data? Should you, another thing is, you can map partners. I've seen a lot of people do really well with finding local NGOs that have the trust of those communities or those cooperatives and can help fast track their entry into a new market. Third is, who are the early adopters? How can you find them? Again, is it a village chief? Is it through a cooperative? Thinking through tools and tactics to unpack that, develop personas and profiles for those early adopters so you can really have a clear understanding of who you're trying to target your product to in the early days. And last, how do you actually get to your customers? What's your marketing channels? Are they using Facebook? Is it more word of mouth? Is it face-to-face? Are there certain days where everyone comes together? Thinking through those is really important to the local context. Second, test. you have to think through ways of actually acquiring your first customers. You need a minimal viable product. You need to get out there so you can quickly learn. And just as importantly, how can you integrate customer feedback loops so that you're constantly improving your product? This is a key tenet of the lean startup principles, if you're aware of that. And third, I really think you need community insiders, people that you can trust in the community that can give you unbiased advice on what your product's doing well, how it can be improved, and what might not be working. Data is also very important. You need data to be able to show that you might have a return on investment, which is really important for your farmers. If you can show them that this product will lead to a proper return on investment in X number of years, and also for investors to show that you're growing in a sustainable way. I would also really encourage you to make sure you're linking your data and your business metrics to the sustainable development goals. If you can actually show that you're actually helping farmers increase their incomes and empowering women and other metrics that are really important for advancing the SDGs, you'll just open yourself up to a whole other range of investors, from social impact investors to multinational corporations that are looking for sustainable solutions. Last is, when you're looking to accelerate, your business is doing great. It's not just growing bigger. This is a really hard aspect from working in emerging markets. When you go from, for example, from Indonesia to Bangladesh, you're going to need to customize to the Bangladesh local market, and you almost need to start again and make sure you're doing that proper legwork with your customers and understanding those needs and creating that local network. As you get bigger, you're going to need better internal systems, HR, accounting, better operations, more things that are automated to reduce your overall overhead costs. Third, you're going to need to adapt to supply chains. So, for example, you might have gotten by with a mom and pop type manufacturer, but you're going to need something that can produce at a higher volume. Similarly with distribution, how can you find distributors that can actually help you reach at scale? And last, really try to find aligned investors. I think find investors that are aligned to your needs, capabilities, and timeline. I've seen a lot of companies get really, again, enamored with an investor because they're showing interest, but then they want to take their business in a very different way. Look for an investor that's going to align with where you want to take your business. Next slide. All right, my favorite part, the Innovator Exchange panel, because this is who I've been learning from in developing all the points that I just made. So we have myself, and I'm going to start us off with Peter from Hydroponics Africa, and then Anissa will jump in and talk about her experience with Akista, and then we're going to hear Taj from Lal Teer Seed to talk about their experiences in addressing challenges in emerging markets and the solutions that they had to overcome them. Over to you, Peter.
Okay, as you have heard, my name is Peter Chege. I'm the CEO and the founder of Hydroponics Africa. Hydroponics Africa helped to solve the following problems in order to help BOP grow nutritious food. Lack of enough RAD, scarcity of water for irrigation, high use of energy for irrigation, and a declining yield due to poor soil fertility. To solve above problems, I researched on the best cost-effective method to farm using less water, less space, and energy while having high yield. I came across hydroponics as I was researching, and so it is very expensive and it cannot be adapted in our local context in Africa. So I embarked on simplifying hydroponics to work at the African context by 1, using local materials to design hydroponic systems, coming up with simplified training modules that does not require prior knowledge in agriculture, because we want to serve BOP, and this being a new technology, unless we simplify it and train, we thought that will not be adapted by our target group. Then we had to come up with a formulation of hydroponics nutrients, which use local materials so that there's no need of importing, because by then there were no hydroponics nutrient in Kenya. So we came up with 4 hydroponic systems based on 1, user. This, because most of our women, we had to design a system which, like now, a tank should not be very high, so that at least it will be able to to be able to grow food without having to struggle. Our system also is based on the crop. Unlike other hydroponic systems, which you have there in the market, our hydroponic system now are designed to grow all food crops, that is vegetables, tubers, legumes, and the fruits. We also had to design system based on the climate, because we realized that our BOP that we are serving, some live in refugee camps, in very hot areas, others live in a very cold areas. And since we want to reduce the cost of running, we had to design a system which will not use electricity, but it will be able to lower the temperature and humidity. Also, as you know, the BOP, they don't have enough space. So we had to design a system like one which is mounted on walls of their building, because actually we call it or SWFF, where we had to install hydroponics unit to 4,000 households within 3 years. We decided to use the same BOP as our marketers. So we identified local marketers whom we trained. We fully trained as a train of trainers. Then they identified 2 local women in every 50 kilometers radius, whom we installed the demo units to. And the work of them is to go and look for the market and sell our hydroponic systems. By doing so, we saw effective customer in onboarding than what we used to have. We also saw more more positive interactions, because these local women, they knew the local context, they knew they used to be friends, so that is easier for them to have a very good interactions, and also because they have their demo which they show the other women can come and see. We also saw customer engagement score increasing very high as more customers started using our products. The customer loyalty also increased because we saw repurchasing multiple products. Hello?
Peter, are you there?
Yes, I've finished. I don't know whether.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Okay. I'm sorry. Do you have any other points to make, or are you all set?
I'm through. I don't know whether you've heard the
Okay, sorry, the connection broke up for a second there on my side. Great, thank you. That was excellent. I have some questions for you, but before I do, I want to turn it over to our other presenters, and then we'll go from there. So, Anissa, tell us about your story. Anissa, we can't hear you. Are you still with us? Well, just like our entrepreneurs are very adaptive. Anissa, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to jump over to Taj. Taj, if you don't mind, if you could please go, and then we'll come back to Anissa in a minute.
No problem. Thank you, Ben. Great opening. I picked up a few things from your opening side. Oh, Anissa's back. What are we doing?
Anissa, we'll come back to you in a minute, okay? We'll just jump over to Lal Teer Seed, and then we'll come back.
So hi, good morning or good evening, everyone, depending on who's where. So our company is Lal Teer Seed Limited. I am the director of Lal Teer, who looks after innovation and various new projects. Lal Teer is a vegetable seed research and production company in Bangladesh, along with sales. Recently, we did a project under the SWFF project banner. We our project was to create high yielding saline resistant varieties and sell them in the southern part of Bangladesh, where flooding causes a lot of water from the Bay of Bengal to push into the land, and then once the water recedes, it leaves a lot of salinity on the belt. So our whole project was to create and distribute saline resistant varieties and teach farmers in the southern belt of Bangladesh, which is approximately about 1,050,000 hectares of land. It consists of 19 districts of Bangladesh, and it's consisting of 32% of the whole land size of Bangladesh. Under this project, we taught farmers how to be innovative, raise their beds, use mulching to push down salinity, and use drip irrigation to conserve water, and use fresh water because fresh water is of abundance in that area. Through this project, we reached 41,269 farmers, and we improved about 10,024 hectares of land. We distributed about 35.42 metric tons of seeds, and out of which we realized the value was 408,667 metric tons of produce grown. Now, why we did this is Bangladesh, as a country which is highly prone to climate change. Even this year, I don't know if anybody has read about Bangladesh, have been seeing severe flooding. Severe flooding means the water from the basin of the Bay of Bengal pushes up due to high volumes of rain and various natural calamities such as cyclone and So our idea was to teach farmers in the lowest part of Bangladesh, where income is very low, how to get an income through that. So teaching them various new methods helped them increase yield, actually get into an industry where they were in the past not interested or eager to come into because of low earnings. Through this, we created a system. We linked them with various microfinance institutions. We have recently developed an app it's called GeoBis, and we have recruited farmers. Every farmer that we have given our seeds to, not even given our seeds to, we have done mass collection of data of farmers in the lower belt of Bangladesh and the northern belt of Bangladesh, and we give them first-hand data regarding a flood situation coming in the future, or a cyclone which should traject through their paths, or even general ideas of how to grow a nutritious crop cycle, less pesticide, and various other inputs to ensure that their produce is as organic as possible and as healthy as possible. Now, to do this, we use the app, we use the satellite system throughout Bangladesh, and we give them real life data and we give them advanced data. So if in case their harvest is at the very late stage and there's a flood coming, they can harvest it right away and reap the benefit of as much produce as they have at that point. While doing this, we faced many challenges. One of the main challenges was, as you can see in the slide, how to tackle counterfeit problems. While tackling this, we've come up through many ideas over the past years, but in a country like Bangladesh, where copyright laws are non-existent and the punishment for adulteration is non-existent pretty much, because a jail term for adulteration of seeds or any other goods is about 7 days or a marginal $500 fine each time. So illegal traders will always take that risk, and because the rewards are much higher. So if we can go to the next slide, I can show you a few options. So first of all, while we were running our project, we came up with a new innovative idea, which was the existing packaging, which is on the top, the 2-layer seed pack. That was created in the year 2000. So we ran with this packet for about 18 years. We ran our luck, and the technology is outdated. What we did was we created a new pack, 4-layer pack, which keeps the seeds, which protects the seed from moisture. And in Bangladesh, creating a 4-layer pack is much more difficult than a 2-layer pack because it takes a lot more technology to produce the packet itself. Secondly, our innovation that we used to protect ourselves was coating the seeds at various times. So each time we send seeds out, we coat it a different color. So only our facility knows, or our quality control knows, what color the next lot will be. Once we find adulterated seeds, farmers can send it back to us and we check it via the color combination. We've realized that even that has not helped. Now, the new innovation that we're currently working on is using UV light, UV printing, where in the naked eye, you will not be able to see the logo or the information that we're thinking of putting on the cans or the packets. But with a UV light, you'll be able to see the various marks. We believe this is just a temporary hold. There needs to be more work done to it. So the last work that we're currently working on is barcode system, QR code system, where in the future, we will allow the farmer to scan a QR code of our packets, where they will be able to get all the information regarding that packet, the day it was packaged, the quantity of seeds packaged, the germination rate of the packaging, and the dealer that this seed was supposed to be distributed via. This way we'll know if adulterated seeds are in the market, and farmers will be able to rest assured that they're getting the best quality seeds possible without being cheated in any sort of way. With that being said, that is part of our innovation, part of our future thinking. And I'd like to thank everyone for giving me this time to speak, and I look forward to taking questions if there is any up next. Thank you.
Absolutely, Taj. Thank you very much. Very interesting. And Anissa, over to you.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Anissa.
Is it better now, Ben? Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Anissa, and it's a pleasure to be here to share with all of you. I am from Akista. And so what is Akista? Akista is a startup. We develop hydropower pumps. As you can see in the picture in the presentation, that's what our hydropower pump look like, the Barsha pump. What's unique about our innovation is that it pumps water using the energy of water flowing, rivers, canals. It can pump up to 2 kilometers in distance, 20 meters high, and it does so without using any electricity or fuel, and it's environmental friendly because no greenhouse gas emissions are emitted. Yes, but we are still in the we are always still developing our product. At the moment, unfortunately, our technology is still expensive for our target smallholder farmers. Like Ben said before in his presentation, so our upfront cost is too high. That's why we developed a financial mechanism for our smallholder farmers, which is the Easy Pay financial model. Easy Pay stands for enabling access to sustainable irrigation with pay after harvest financing mechanism. What we do with this mechanism is that farmers can use our Barsha pump, and after they harvest, they pay a percentage of their harvest for the Barsha pump. We have farmers, we've been doing this since 2017 with farmers in Sumba, Indonesia. And we have around 40 Barsha pumps in the rivers flowing. With the Easy Pay model, farmers are able to get their harvest first and use the Barsha pump. And for the company, for us, for Akista, we are able to provide our technology to the farmers, and we get sustainable revenue from the service that we provide to the farmers. Our business model is with the Easy Pay financial model, we get the payback of the Barsha pump in 2 to 3 years. So, like I said before, we've been doing this since 2017, and the success that we have, if you could move to the next slide, please. I would like to share that our farmers using the Berkshire pump, they have increased in income, and also they've tackled malnutrition, and they can diversify their diet. Another thing that also Ben mentioned is in his presentation is that the farmers are willing and able to pay. In a country like Indonesia, where water pumps are highly subsidized, the government gives a lot of free stuff for the farmers. The farmers we've worked with are committed and are able and willing to pay for the Berkshire pump with this easy pay model. And what have we learned from the model that we've applied for smallholder farmers? The first one is that this is a trust-based system. We need the trust of the smallholder farmers to know our product, our technology, and see how it works. But it's also a trust-based system because that we need to trust the farmers of how much they harvest and how much they pay for the Berkshire pump. That's why we need someone on the ground, someone we can trust, an organization or a person that can supervise and monitor for the Berkshire pump usage. And the second is that there's a again with the harvest, there's a varying income from farmers depending on how they use their land and what crops and how much area they use. So at the moment, we have around $60 to $600 per harvest for the pump payment. So it really depends on the smallholder farmers of how they use it. And more of that irrigation is something that that is one thing that smallholder farmers are facing, but there are a lot of other things that farmers are facing, like how they get their seeds, their capability of how to stock their harvest and how they can reach the market access. And for that, we've moved from what we've learned from that, we've moved the easy pay model a bit more forward. So we're not only providing the irrigation system, but we farmers can also opt to commit and work together with us in an incubator, grown incubator, where we provide seeds, training, and the market access for the farm. And in 1 year, we work together, something like contract farming, as was in Ben's presentation. And after that, they graduate and they can do their own independent farming with us. So that's a little bit of what we are doing in Akista with our business model, the easy pay financial model with smallholder farmers. We are hoping that we are hoping that this keeps growing and we keep developing our business model to introduce it to more smallholder farmers in other countries also. If there's anything, I would be very happy to share with everyone. Yes, thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Anissa. That was fantastic, and thank you, Taj and Peter as well. Again, I learned so much from you. So I think we're getting close. I'm gonna ask a few questions, both Peter, Taj, and Anissa, and love to answer any questions that you may have for us too in the Q&A section on the Microsoft Teams platform. So if my fellow panelists could turn their videos on, and we could close the PowerPoint deck. My first question is for Peter. Peter, so you used a lot of women from the communities you're working with to help sell your product. You know, when you first reached out to these women who don't have agriculture experience and you're like, hey, I want you to help me sell this product. How did that go? What was your experience to get them to trust you that you know that this was a real opportunity? Yeah,
I started by since now we have a demo farm at our headquarters. We went there at the look for the women. They came we trained them. We had developed simplified hydroponics training modules because, you know, this technology is new, and unless that the farmer we are not used to grow crops without soil. So we had to train them. They saw the demo and then we did the demo to their farms. By doing that, they saw the crops are doing well, and they adapted the technology. We had to simplify it so that at least they saw it's a simple technology, but helping them to grow more nutritious food.
And Peter, the second question for you as a follow-up is, how important is it for you to have the trust, have a lot of trust with your customers? And do you think because you're using people from local communities, does that help you with the trust process? Do you feel like you have an increased trust and loyalty with your customers?
Yes, of course. We saw more positive interaction because we are serving the BOP, and they work together. So using local marketeers, we saw more interactions, positive interaction, and they are able to actually for the farmers we installed units. They are able to lay their problems, the challenges in the crop support. It's much easier than when we would engage a professional in marketing. Yeah. We also saw the customer loyalty also increased because we saw repurchasing, multiple product purchase than what we used to do when we are engaged in others. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think you found a business model through working with these women that really can customize that local context. And now I'm going to turn over to Taj. You found a way to overcoming counterfeit seeds, and it sounds like it's continued to be a challenge, and you're continuing to innovate new ways of overcoming that, different colors, new UV codes, barcodes. What do you guys? So when you do find out that there's counterfeit seeds being distributed, what do you guys do? Like, how do you what steps do you take? So if you had this barcode system, what would you do if you found out that somebody is trying to copy your product and put it into the market?
Firstly, when we get the first information from our team on the field that there is counterfeit product on the field that they're finding throughout their sales areas, we inform the authorities right away. First would be the Department of Agriculture Extension, who is technically the lead authority of agriculture in each district or division or in each area of Bangladesh. They're the ones that are the government agents that are supposed to teach farmers sustainable farming and give them the right prescription to do better. We inform them first, and simultaneously we go to the police and we file the general diary regarding this issue. Once that happens, the police are meant to investigate, or if the Department of Agriculture and Extension decide, they can always do a spot raid. So we pursue them as much as possible to go and pursue the spot raid. Once that happens, we highlight it in the press, and we try ensuring that the utmost punishment is given to the individual that is committing the crime. However, to support the farmers, they have been cheated. So we, as a CSR side of our company, we reimburse the farmer for their loss by giving them new seeds that they had been cheated with.
And so that's actually pretty interesting. So and then does that do you feel like you have strong customer loyalty? It sounds like you have a really strong field presence. Have you seen a lot of customer loyalty throughout the years and providing these services and, helping farmers that might have gotten cheated? How's that helped your business?
It's definitely given us the brand reputation, and it's given us the upper edge in many ways.
Right.
If you go onto the field in Bangladesh right now, being an independent person without any of our team members with you, I can proudly say that farmers will first come to the field, to the dealer shops or the retailer position, and they will ask for the Lal Teer Seed. Now, the dealer plays a part in distributing various other company products, but when you talk about seed in Bangladesh, just like when you talk about a soda drink and you associate with Coca-Cola anywhere in the world,
right.
In Bangladesh, I strongly believe, and I can vouch for this actually, that dealers believe in Lal Teer first, and then it's any other product, pretty much.
That's fantastic, and it's really interesting how you're able to build that brand, and I think it's a really amazing story. So thank you, Taj. And Nisa, I want to ask you a few questions, and I'm going to open it up to the audience. So please send any questions you have in the Q&A. The easy pay model is really cool. I mean, you said a 2 to 3 year payback term. How did farmers react when you're like, look, we have an innovative financing model for you? I mean, was it hard to get them at first to understand that this thing was a real, not like a pyramid scheme and not something fake? Like, how did you kind of build that trust up with your farmers to get them to be excited about your easy pay model?
Yeah, so thank you, Ben, for the question. We work together with an organization in the local area. Usually there's a cooperation of farmers, and we started a demo of the Barsha pump. It did take a while. So we started harvesting there to show that this is how the product works and this is how it will be, the system will be. They've been also like renting diesel pumps to water their harvest. So it's kind of like we're shifting the payment to the Barsha pump where they can own in the end and not renting and not having anything. So it's something like that.
Why was it so important to have this local cooperative as a partner to help you, help these farmers take a chance on your product?
Yeah, it's very, very important. We are working with smallholder farmers in all the areas in Indonesia, usually rural. We don't have the people to go there every day and stay there, so we build connections with organizations, farmer organizations we can trust and the farmers can trust. So that's like a bridge that helps us also with building the trust and then maintaining the connection of how using the Barsha pump, maintaining it also, and for the payments. Yeah,
thank you very much. I mean, that's super interesting that you've been able to do that. I want to switch over to some open Q&A. If you haven't submitted your question yet, please go ahead. First I want to ask Peter is, Peter, when you're trying to sell your hydroponic system, what's been the reasonable cost to get people interested in this? That was one of the questions we had from our group. Like, what types of people are, what do you think kind of base of the pyramid customers are able to pay for something like this?
The cost of a simple hydroponic system, which can feed between 5 to 7 members of the family, is $100. $100 US. So that's the lowest cost for, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds quite reasonable. Yeah, thank you. And we have another question for Taj, and just leave your videos on, panelists. I'm going to keep shooting questions at you. And then question, other two is, will the new technology tackle counterfeits up the production costs, and how, if so, will they be countered? So basically, how do you manage your production costs with trying to tackle the counterfeit challenge?
Firstly, the production cost is pretty standard. Whatever we produce up in our production zones, those we give to the farmers, our contract growers. The cost of the seeds to the farmers who are purchasing our seeds after it's quality controlled and repackaged, the cost there is a very nominal cost because our plan is we spread out the investment cost over a 5-year span. So usually what we do is yearly we increase our seed cost by 1 or 2% to take care of operational costs. So we try putting the cost of this new innovation within that 1 or 2% to make sure that seed price is very price sensitive. We have to ensure that farmers aren't going out of their means to spend to earn their return. So we ensure that we don't really push it onto the farmers as much, but if we get grants or we submit these proposals for various grants around the world to various partners, and usually someone or another uses this and helps us build this platform, so it works out that way.
I see. Great, thank you for that. And the next question is for Anissa. I think this is a really good question. What are the risks in models like Easy Pay? Does the customer always pay on time? And what has been your experience with respect to payment delays?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think I cannot see the whole question, but yeah. So we have experience where customers delay, but since we have a very tight connection with the organization and the farmers, then we already know what the problem is if there is a delay, because we work together with organizations where we constantly go to the field and monitor how the farm is going, how the irrigation, how our barsha pump is working, how the irrigation is working. So if there's a delay, it's usually anticipated. We know if that there's a problem. Usually there's a delay because there's a problem.
Right.
Is there like a second question to that, Ben?
In what, what's been your experience with payment delays? Like, how do you address it when it does happen?
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, it's usually anticipated because we know there is a problem that causes the delay.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're ready for it when it happens, and it's a
Yeah.
conversation with each farmer. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And so we have one more question. I'm going to ask all three of the panelists, and this one was pointed towards Peter, and I'm going to change it a little bit, but because the question I have, and I think it's really important, is how do you guys integrate feedback loops with your customers to ensure quality and also continue to do quality improvements to your product over time? This idea of this lean startup where you're constantly monitoring your feedback to see if your product should continue what you're doing, if you need to adapt it or even pivot your business model. And particularly after COVID, any changes that you might have had to make. So I'm going to start with Peter, since the question is at him. Peter, how do you manage feedback loops and quality assurance?
We realize that quality, the feedback can be different in different stages. So what we do, we set the questions through a survey. When we did we complete the installation of the hydroponic system, they fill the form and they are able to give us the feedback. Then on the club support, after 2 weeks after doing the installation, we also get the feedback from them, and also now when they are harvesting, so that to know whether they got the required harvest, the ones that we had promised. So by getting all those feedback, we are able now to know where maybe we are not doing well, or where we need to improve in terms of the technology, or in terms of now the more training. Thank you.
And Taj, how have you integrated feedback loops?
Sorry, can you repeat that? For some reason it broke up.
No problem. Taj, how have you integrated feedback loops from your customers to continuously look at how you improve your products?
We have a team of product demonstration individuals that are working all around Bangladesh. Seed is a key component of the industry of the country. We're constantly taking feedback from farmers of what varieties they'd like to see in the future, how much more yield they're looking for, what the market perspective is. So we're constantly doing research, and then we're sending the information back to our R&D team, group of scientists that develop these varieties. So they're constantly taking information, testing and trialing new varieties, and it takes a while, so about 2 to 3 years to create each variety. So over time, we're trying to tweak here and there, and that's pretty much how we are moving forward to ensure that our customers are happy.
So today we've all talked about how great everything and how great you guys are, and you all are very great. But now I'm going to ask Akista a very hard question, and I'd love for my other panelists to chime in too, is, what about when things go wrong? What have you learned? What can anyone share a story, maybe starting with you, Akista, when something didn't work and you found a way to address it, and what you learned from it?
Yeah, of course, I can share. We did because we're also doing another project in Rwanda. We had to decide for them the crop that they need, which is spinach. But when we went there and did the installation and did installation for the system for growing that type of crop, most of the farmers refused because they don't like that. So we had now to discuss with them, and because we thought that is best for them because it's more nutritious, but they wanted to grow what they know and what they used to eat.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for sharing. And Anissa, do you have anything about how you've learned from a failure or a setback?
Yeah, I think it relates to the question earlier about payment delay. So there was a problem with one of our farmers where their harvest didn't go well because they stocked their harvest in an open area and it got, how do you say it? It went bad, so they couldn't sell it, and so no selling of harvest, no payment to the pump, right? Yeah, so that was one of our failures. That's also what we think as feedback that we look through, and that also was one of the reasons we initiated another level of Easy Pay, which is the Grown Incubator, where we help farmers with more than just irrigation, but also post-production and storage of harvest. Yeah.
Thank you. And I see there's some other questions. We don't have time to get all to them today, but Anissa, Taj, and Peter, if other people on the line have questions more about, some of the experience you've been through, are all of you open to telling people more about your experiences and stories, especially fellow entrepreneurs, if they have questions?
Yes, for sure. I'd be definitely interested to share my ideas, take new ideas. It's always welcome.
Yes, same for me. Like, let's learn together and share.
Also, as always, I'm happy to share. Thank you.
And this is what I'm talking about. That I've been so honored to work with these amazing entrepreneurs is that they're so willing to help and share and help find solutions together. So, the guidebook's got a lot of other entrepreneurs in there. WE4F is doing some amazing work in this space, and many other people are as well. I encourage you to take the initiative, be proactive, and continue this learning in this process. And, let's just remember what Thomas Edison say, like, he never failed. He just found 10,000 ways that did not work. So we got to keep learning from each other and keep building. Thank you very much for taking the time today. It was a wonderful opportunity to have this chance to discuss more about this topic that I hold very dear. Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day today.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.